This is the story of two women who were put on a collision course by the same lying man, and the baby born in the middle of all that chaos who somehow became the thing that saved them both. One of them came to destroy. One of them was just trying to survive. And by the end of that night, neither of them would be the same person they were when it started. Let's go back to the beginning, because you need to understand who these two women were before they ever stepped into the same room. Her name was Diane, 34 years old, lived in a neat little house in Charlotte, North Carolina, with a husband named Kevin and a life that looked, from the outside, like something off a greeting card. Kevin was an engineer, good salary, good manners, the kind of husband who showed up to neighborhood barbecues with a dish he actually made himself and remembered the names of everyone's kids. They had been married for 5 years. And for most of those 5 years, Diane had been genuinely, quietly happy. She wasn't the kind of woman who needed grand gestures or constant reassurance. She just needed steady. She needed real. She needed someone who came home every night and meant it. She found out about the other woman the way most people find out about these things now: a notification on a shared iPad that was meant for Kevin's eyes only. A message preview. 6 words that didn't make sense at first and then made too much sense all at once. The other woman's name was Serena. Diane didn't confront Kevin right away. That's the thing people don't understand about discovering a betrayal. The first thing you feel is an anger. It's this strange, cold disbelief. Like the ground shifted 1 inch to the left and you're standing on it, trying to figure out if what you're feeling is real. She spent 2 days just watching Kevin, watching him eat breakfast, watching him kiss her cheek before work, watching him pretend to be the man she married while she quietly pulled every thread she could find. What she found was worse than she expected. Serena wasn't a mistake. She wasn't a work trip that got out of hand. She was a 2-year relationship with her own routines and her own inside jokes and her own expectations about where things were going. Serena believed Kevin was going to leave Diane. He had told her that. He had said it enough times that Serena had started making plans around it. And Serena was pregnant. 8 months pregnant. Admitted to Mercy General Hospital in Charlotte for high risk monitoring because of complications with the pregnancy. When Diane found it out from a message thread she wasn't supposed to see, full of conversations between Kevin and Serena about the baby, about the due date, about names they had picked, something inside her went very, very quiet. The kind of quiet that happens right before something explodes. She drove to that hospital on a Thursday afternoon while Kevin was at work. She told herself she just wanted to see. She told herself she wasn't going to do anything crazy. She told herself she was in control. She was not in control. She walked through those hospital halls following the room number she had pulled from Kevin's messages, and she felt nothing but this roaring white noise in her head and the specific kind of pain that only exists when someone you trusted completely shows you exactly how little they thought of you. She pushed open the door to room 318. Serena was lying in the hospital bed connected to a monitor, watching something on her phone. Late 20s. Dark hair. Smaller than Diane expected, somehow. The belly was enormous. And she had those tired eyes that heavily pregnant women get. The ones that say, "I have been carrying this for so long, and I just need it to be over." She looked up when Diane walked in. And in the half second before either of them spoke, something passed between them. Not hostility. Not yet. Just recognition. Like two people who have heard about each other in the worst possible way and are now trying to process the fact that they are standing in the same room made of actual flesh and bone. Diane said, "You're Serena." Serena sat up a little straighter and said, "Who are you?" And Diane said, "I'm Kevin's wife." The monitor beeped. Serena's hand moved to her belly automatically, the way pregnant women do when they feel something they can't name. Then Serena said something that Diane did not expect. She didn't get defensive. She didn't yell. She looked at Diane for a long moment and said, very quietly, "He told me you two were separated." Diane laughed. Not a funny laugh. The kind that comes out when something is so painful that your body doesn't know what else to do with it. She said, "We had dinner together last Friday. We are not separated." Serena closed her eyes. And something happened in that room that Diane had not planned for. The anger she had driven there with, that hot, focused, destructive anger, started doing something strange. It started softening around the edges. Because Serena wasn't fighting her. Serena wasn't performing. Serena was sitting in a hospital bed 8 months pregnant, just told that the father of her baby had been lying to her for 2 years. And she looked, there's no other word for it. She looked devastated. Not guilty, devastated. Diane stood there and for the first time let herself actually look at this woman. Really look at her. And what she saw wasn't a villain. What she saw was someone who had also been lied to. Someone who had also built something around Kevin's words and Kevin's promises, and was now sitting in the middle of the wreckage of all of it. Diane pulled the chair away from the wall and sat down. Neither of them spoke for almost a minute. Then Serena said, "How long have you known?" Diane said, "3 days." Serena said, "I've known something was wrong for months. I just kept telling myself I was imagining it. And then, because sometimes, the most unexpected things come out. When people drop the script they came in with," Diane said. "What did he tell you about me?" Serena told her. All of it. The story Kevin had constructed. That Diane and he had drifted apart years ago. That they were staying together for practical reasons. That the marriage was empty and he was just waiting for the right moment to end it. That he loved Serena. That the baby was everything to him. Diane listened to the entire story that Kevin had, built about her own life without her in it. She listened to the version of herself that Kevin had, created to justify what he was doing. A cold woman. A distant woman. A placeholder. When Serena finished, Diane said, "None of that is true." Serena said, "I know that now." They sat in that hospital room for another 2 hours. Talking. Not as enemies. Not as friends exactly. As two people who had been handed the same disaster from opposite ends and were trying to figure out together what they were even looking at. Serena told Diane about the pregnancy. How Kevin had reacted when she first told him. Excited. She said, genuinely excited. Which made everything worse somehow. How he had come to her appointments. How he had painted the nursery in her apartment. How he had picked a name. Diane told Serena about her marriage. The real version. The dinners and the vacations. And the ordinary Tuesday nights that she had believed meant something. At some point, Serena started crying. Not dramatically, just quietly, the way people cry when they are too tired to hold it anymore. Diane, who had come to that hospital to destroy this woman, handed her a tissue from the box on the nightstand. That small moment, that completely ordinary, almost automatic gesture, was the thing that broke the last wall between them. Kevin was called by the hospital that evening. Not by Diane. By Serena. Serena called him and told him that his wife was sitting in her hospital room and that he needed to come and explain himself to both of them in the same space at the same time. Kevin walked into room 318 at 7:15 that evening and found the two women he had been lying to sitting on opposite sides of the same bed, looking at him with the particular calm that only exists when anger has burned all the way down to something colder and more final. He tried to talk. He tried to explain. He started with Diane first, then switched to Serena, then tried to address both of them at once, which is a very specific kind of terrible to witness. He used phrases like complicated situation, and I never meant to hurt anyone, and I was going to tell you both. I just needed more time. Diane said, "How much time were you planning to need?" Kevin didn't answer. Serena said, "You painted the nursery. You picked a name. You told me the name of my own baby, and the whole time you were going home to your wife." Kevin looked at the floor. Diane stood up and picked up her bag. She looked at Kevin for a long moment. The look of someone closing a door they know they will never open again. And she said, "I'll have a lawyer contact you." Then she looked at Serena. What she said next was not what anyone in that room expected. It was not what Diane herself expected. When she had driven to that hospital 3 hours earlier, she said, "That baby didn't do anything wrong. Whatever happens with him, that baby deserves to know someone is in their corner." Then she walked out. Now here is the part of the story that takes your breath away. The part that nobody planned and nobody could have written. Serena went into labor that night. Early, faster than expected. Her body apparently deciding it had been through enough, and it was time. The nurses moved quickly. The monitors went loud. And at 11:42 that Thursday night, a baby girl was born in room 318 at Mercy General. She was healthy, loud, 7 pounds exactly. She came into the world like she had somewhere to be. Kevin was in the waiting room. He had not left, whatever that meant about him. When the nurse came out to tell him the baby had arrived, he stood up and said he wanted to go in. The nurse came back out 2 minutes later. Serena had said no. Not right now. Maybe not for a long time. But not right now. Kevin sat back down in that waiting room alone. And Diane, who had gone home and was sitting in her own kitchen in the dark, got a text from an unknown number. It said 3 words. She's here. Healthy. Diane sat with her phone for a long time. Then she typed back. I'm glad. That was the beginning of something nobody could have predicted. Not a friendship exactly, but something. A thread between 2 women who had no reason to trust anyone, but somehow found a reason to trust each other. Diane filed for divorce 3 weeks later. It was not a messy process because Diane had decided she was not going to spend one more unit of her energy on Kevin than was absolutely necessary. She was calm through all of it. Methodical. The way she was with everything when she had made up her mind. She started over from scratch at 34 years old. New apartment. New routines. Long walks in the morning that she had never made time for before. She called her sister more. She slept better than she had in 2 years without knowing why until she realized it was because she wasn't carrying something heavy in her chest anymore. The truth, even when it's brutal, is lighter than a lie. Serena named her daughter Ava. Ava grew up knowing her mother was the bravest person in any room. She grew up watching Serena rebuild, slowly, imperfectly, honestly, into someone who stopped apologizing for taking up space. Kevin was in Ava's life, but on terms that Serena set. And those terms were firm and fair and non-negotiable. And Diane, the woman who drove to a hospital to burn something down and left it having handed a stranger a tissue instead, Diane became someone Ava knew. Not a daily presence. Not a complicated thing. Just a woman who showed up at a birthday party. Once when Ava was 3 and brought a gift and sat in the corner and watched. This little girl who had nothing to do with the worst thing that ever happened to her. And felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Something that felt a lot like hope. That's the thing about going somewhere with destruction in your hands and choosing, at the last second, to put it down. It doesn't fix what broke. It doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't make Kevin less of what he was or the betrayal less of what it was. But it changes what you become on the other side of it. Diane came to that hospital to destroy the other woman. And instead she found out they were the same woman. Different names. Different rooms. Same man, same lies, same invisible knife in the same place in the back. And the baby born that night. That 7-pound girl who had nothing to do with any of it. She became the thing that reminded both of them that life has this stubborn habit of growing in the cracks of broken things. Ava is 5 years old now. She has her mother's eyes and her grandmother's laugh, and she runs everywhere like walking is too slow for what she has to do. She has no idea that the night she was born, 2 women sat in the same hospital room and chose something harder and better than what they came in with. She doesn't need to know yet. But one day Serena will tell her. She'll tell her the whole story. And she'll make sure Ava knows that the most important moment wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't the confrontation. It wasn't even the birth. It was the tissue. That tiny, ordinary, human moment when someone who came to destroy you decided instead to just be kind. That was the moment everything changed. And that kind of moment, small, quiet, easy to miss, that is the kind that echoes for the rest of your life.